Hello everybody and welcome to this video with myself and Peter. And we are here to look at the Backun range of clarinet barrels. Now in particular we're going to hit the 4 models that are available and we're going to test them all in the same wood type. And that's because they're available in 2 woods, COCOBOLO and Grenadilla. And we've done a separate video where we actually talk about the difference between COCOBOLO and Grenadilla on one model so you can do a direct comparison. But we're going to hit the 4 that are available. So that is the MOBA, which Pete is sporting on the MOBA clarinet, the LUMIERE, the Fatboy, and the new traditional as well. So there's 4 out there, and they all do slightly different things. They physically look different because of the amount of wood is on them, but they do blow differently because of their designs as well. So I think, Pete, what's interesting is a lot of people will have heard about Backun in the first place from the barrels. It's been a bit of an entryway, hasn't it?
Yeah. I think, Maury made his name on making high quality barrels and, as accessories to the kind of the big clarinet companies.
Yeah. So why do you think, because a lot of people change mouthpieces, and I think now we're getting to the point, especially in the UK, where people are open to the idea, although it always takes longer here sometimes.
Sure.
But what is it that you can do by changing the barrel that's maybe less impactful to how you play, but equally as impactful to the sound?
Well, yeah. Obviously the mouthpiece and the reed combination is very important. That's your tone generator. But the barrel amplifies that. The barrel is quite important in that respect. And certain tapering, certain bore designs will have quite a significant effect with how the rest of the instrument will feel in terms of how it blows and that kind of thing, or whether you want something that's free blowing or something that has a bit of inbuilt resistance, if you like, which will come from there.
It's a really great way to change your sound and feel without messing with something you're already pretty happy with.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Absolutely,
So let's get into the test. Now, we're using the same clarinet and the same mouthpiece and the same reed, and we are on a Backun Vocalise H mouthpiece with a Legere European cut 3.5 signature reed as well. So the MOBA is first up, and we're not doing these in any particular order, just so you know, but the MOBA probably is the darkest, densest, most resistant, and resistance isn't always bad.
No.
It's something to play with.
Yeah, I think, resistance isn't a bad thing, actually, because you want to have something to really blow against, because I think you need that in order to channel your air. That's one of the most important things of playing any wind instrument is the airflow. Something that makes you work that a little bit harder, I think is always a good thing. Yeah,
and you can see physically it's a large design. There's the rings as well, and so it tends to give that dark, rich sort of sound. But let's have a little listen, and then we can jump on. So you're used to these, Pete, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's that density of sound
there is a real kind of real core, and I feel like I'm working.
Yeah.
I think when you feel like you're working, you feel like you're creating.
Yeah.
And that's
that's
really important. Certainly, when you're trying to interpret whatever it might be. Because we are servants of the music.
Yes, absolutely. Cool. Okay, well, let's jump to maybe the LUMIERE next. So this is a new barrel that came along with the LUMIERE clarinet, which we've done a separate video if you want to check that out. The LUMIERE is the second in the custom range alongside the MOBA. They're equal in quality. They're just 2 different designs in terms of kind of the school of sounds they represent, I suppose.
Yeah.
And generally it's a little lighter feeling, a little more open, is that fair to say?
I would say so, yeah. I think you mentioned scores. I think really the 2 differences between the MOBA and the LUMIERE are one really, that the MOBA is kind of edging towards that sort of dark Germanic sort of style of tone, whereas the LUMIERE is going for the more brighter sort of French or that sort of European sort of style of sound. I suppose you know, if we were to back to the old Boozy and Hawks comparison, it would be a 10-10 and a 926.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, same sort of thing, yeah. Cool. Well, let's have a little listen. And it's interesting to get your feedback, how it responds differently to the MOBA.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's quite interesting. I've never tried this combination, actually, and I know there are some fabulous players around that do actually use the LUMIERE barrels on the MOBAs. And this is the first time I've actually tried that. Now, that adds a very different dimension. So you get the kind of Germanic sort of feel within the body of the instrument, but that takes a little bit of, just adds a bit of kind of lightness to the sound.
So again, it might depend on your mouthpiece reed setup and whether you like more or less resistance.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there's not as much resistance in this one as in comparison to the MOBA, but you know, a lot of it's very subjective, and it's you know how one feels personally as well. You know, in terms of that, you know, it might not necessarily come across in an order, but if the player feels comfortable, then that's going to affect how you perform. Yeah, absolutely. That's important. But that's very nice. Very nice, yeah. It's more open, less resistant than the MOBA barrel.
Cool. Well, let's jump onto the Fatboy. And the Fatboy has been very popular with some of the more commercial players, I would say. Perhaps some of the guys doing a bit of jazz. I know Eddie Daniels, for example, used Fatboy barrel quite a lot. It's the least resistance. It's the most open feeling, and it's kind of quite a lively, punchy sort of a thing, as we're going to hear in a moment. And it's worth pointing out, obviously we're using a Backun Clarinet to do this demo, but these are designed to suit on most major brands of clarinet. So if you're using Yamaha or Buffet, for example, there's no reason why you can't use a Backun barrel.
No.
You just match up your length, 65, 66. And there's even specific ones for the Yamaha CSG range, which use a shorter barrel system. But let's have a little listen to that Fatboy, Pete.
That's huge, isn't it?
It feels like you've been turboed.
Yeah, that is massive.
Yeah.
Gosh. I've never, again, I have to say, I've never really properly tried the Fatboys, and that's a huge sound. You can see why the commercial players would want to use something like that.
It feels like you're just ready to go, and it can take more and more. I don't know if there's a trade-off. Perhaps, you know, in those subtler moments, who knows? You'd need to test that.
I don't know. It gives you that immediacy of sound straight away, and there's a real kind of sound that does that. But I think I don't know. I think you could probably be quite sensitive with it, perhaps. Yeah, I mean...
And it still retains the character
absolutely,
and the quality.
There's still the core in the tone, you know.
And actually, we're trying this with the COCOBOLO. So if you stuck a Grenadilla Fatboy on, it would be like being double turboed, basically.
Yeah,
It'd be even brighter and even punchier. Okay, so that's well worth it, especially if you're doing some stuff where you've got a lead or you've got to cut over an ensemble, or if you're the only clarinet player, you know, and you need power.
I'd imagine that actually would be very good in a kind of, if you were in a jazz band setting, you're doubling you with a lead clarinet, or actually maybe even, you know, a lead clarinet player in a symphonic band, or something like that. You know, that would really cut across the brass. You know, in those big tutti passages where sometimes the wind can get drowned out in a
and then you're in a symphonic band.
Absolutely.
Tuning goes out the window and all the rest of it. So the last one we're going to try is the new traditional. And it's a bit of a hybrid of things in a way. It's more towards the LUMIERE, perhaps, in terms of how it plays. However, it does have the wooden rings, top and bottom, and they're not attached separately. That's all cut from one piece of COCOBOLO wood. So it's a really interesting way to produce, but it makes them obviously look different. But the new traditional, like I say, is probably more towards the Lumiere, but with a little bit more built in. Let's see what you feel.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a bit of a kind of I think you're right in saying it's a hybrid. It feels very much in the middle between a Lumiere and a MOBA.
Yeah.
So there's just a little bit of resistance, but there's also that kind of sort of freer sort of sound that you can get. So yeah, that's quite nice actually.
Perhaps as an all-round thing, and it's actually the traditional kind of where they started in lots of ways, and that's what gave them a lot of success getting into the market and people getting used to the brands as well. So I think what's kind of things to take away, there are different models. We can let you try them. If you can't come to the store, we can send you a couple of different models at home, so you can do that through the website, order a couple of different ones, try them out, and then send back what you don't want to keep. And I think the trick is, like we've just said on other things as well, you've got to take it home, try it in your own environment, try it in a band, try it in your lesson, whatever it might be. But I would open your mind to trying these things to alter a little bit of your tone and response, as I say, without having to mess with the setup that you're already happy with on your clarinet and on your mouthpiece and reed. Now, it's worth checking out the video we've done separately where we compare the traditional in the COCOBOLO and the Grenadilla, and then you can learn a little bit more about what the two woods do. So hopefully that's been of interest, gives you an idea of the range. And I'm going to struggle now not to let Pete take them all home, especially that Fatboy.
Got my eye on it, absolutely.
Okay. But maybe if you can just play us a few notes just to blow us out, Pete, if you can.